This podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and should not be construed as investment, tax, or legal advice. Any examples or frameworks discussed are general in nature and may not be suitable for all investors. All investing involves risk, including the possible loss of principal. Past experiences and planning approaches do not guarantee future results. Fortunes don't disappear just because of bad investments. They can also disappear because of poor structure, poor communication, and just having a poor decision-making process across generations. Markets are going to go up and down. Tax laws are going to change. Economic cycles are going to continue cycling. But a major under-the-radar threat to long-term wealth is human behavior. And what I've noticed working with families who've built substantial wealth is there's a pattern, or several patterns really, that emerge with the ones that preserve it really well. They don't just rely on one brilliant investment and call it a day. They build out systems. And I identified 15 really important ones that I want to share with you today. So number one is separating ownership from management. A lot of entrepreneurs build wealth through concentrated expertise, but preserving the wealth often requires something different. Usually it requires professional management and some sort of diversification. So it's really important to review whether the person or the people who built the original wealth are the same people that should be managing the investments. And it's also important to clarify which family members are owners versus which ones are the decision makers. Number two is diversifying after liquidity events. Like I said, a lot of fortunes are built on one concentrated asset. It could be a business, real estate, maybe even a few hyper-correlated public investments. But after a major liquidity event, successful families will often transition from the mindset of a builder to the mindset of a steward. So they'll have to evaluate whether too much of the family balance sheet is still tied to one asset or one industry, and then think about how diversification might reduce their risk without eliminating future opportunity. Number three is they build a trusted advisory team. If they're an entrepreneur, they've probably built out teams before. This is just a little bit different than what they've already built out in the past. They already know no single advisor can just handle everything in the same way they couldn't handle everything for their own business. So they rely on a team of specialists rather than just one generalist. So when you're building out your team, you're going to want to see, are these advisors communicating well with each other? And you also want to determine if there should be like a head coach or a quarterback that's going to be responsible for coordinating the overall strategy. Number four is creating clear governance. A big problem that can happen is that family wealth can be fragile when decision authority is unclear. If you've watched the first couple episodes of Succession, you can see that in all its dramatic glory. So that governance provides a structure for making difficult decisions. Those difficult decisions will happen at some point. So documenting the process for how a major investment or financial decisions are made, and then establishing some regular family meetings or advisory discussions about wealth management helps solidify the system for governance. Number five is preparing the next generation early. This is one that I'm a really big proponent of. With three young kids, I see how important it is to shape what they're learning and how they're learning it from a young age. And inheritance planning, it often focuses on assets, but not necessarily preparation. Financial education and responsibility should not happen at the time of a major wealth transfer. It should happen years before that. So introducing younger family members to basic investing in financial concepts, even when they're in early elementary school, is important. And then even involving them in the family discussions and decision-making about stewardship and responsibility will help give them an opportunity to actually participate and maybe even make a decision or two. Number six is defining the purpose of the family's wealth. This comes down to one simple but very powerful question. What is this money for? Is it for security, opportunity, entrepreneurship, philanthropy? Some of those, all of those. There's no right or wrong answer, but defining it is super important. And the way you can define it is just write a short family statement about the purpose of the wealth and then discuss those long-term priorities with future generations. Number seven is controlling lifestyle inflation. So one quiet destroyer of wealth is just unchecked spending growth. Everyone's probably heard of the heir apparent who has a robust travel schedule and flies private parties all the time, maybe gets involved in some things that they should not get involved in. All of that really comes down to overspending beyond their means. It's a big thing that's talked about so if expenses are rising faster than portfolio income, you really got a problem heading down the pike. So you want to review whether costs have actually grown faster than investment income, and on a deeper level, actually evaluate what truly contributes to their quality of life. There's plenty of wealthy families out there who fly under the radar because they don't spend lavishly. It's important to ask yourself what really matters here versus just spending for the sake of spending. Just because you can doesn't necessarily mean you should. Number 8 is protecting against catastrophic risks. So obviously there's different levels of risk, but some risks can undo decades of success if it's not properly addressed. So these include like legal liability, health events, just general insurance gaps. And you'll definitely want to review your major liability exposures and insurance coverage periodically to make sure it's still in line. And even sit down and think, like, what unexpected events could significantly impact the family assets? Number 9 is planning for taxes across generations. So taxes are really interesting because they rarely destroy wealth quickly. It's something that just sort of quietly erodes over decades in most cases. So it's important to think not just about taxes today, but taxes generationally, and then incorporate that long-term awareness with future generations. So estate and tax strategies should be reviewed periodically, especially when tax laws change, and then having that open dialogue with advisors about whether the current structure is still aligned with the family goals. Number 10 is a really interesting one. It's avoiding overconfidence after success. So a lot of entrepreneurs, they find a great deal of success. A lot of it is hard work. Many will also admit some luck played a part. But with that can come a certain amount of hubris that makes you think, well, I was good at this. Maybe I'm good at everything. And that may not necessarily translate across all investments. So you got to be disciplined. And it's important to seek some independent perspectives about large investments and even encouraging some debate and questioning through your due diligence process within your advisory team. Number 11 is maintain liquidity. Sometimes large portfolios become heavily invested in illiquid assets. That might be totally appropriate for you. No right or wrong answer there. But having at least some liquidity can provide flexibility during uncertain periods. So just having a review of how much of the family balance sheet is easily accessible, and then considering whether those liquidity levels are going to support your needs in the event that you need to shore things up, or even if an unexpected opportunity comes along, can you strike on it when you need to make a quick decision? Number 12 is using structures designed for longevity. So using the proper structures can protect wealth from fragmentation or unexpected risks, and it also helps create continuity across generations. What this means in practice is having trust and ownership structures that work with your long-term goals and having your legal counsel regularly review them and making sure that all the members of the family who are decision makers are on board with the frameworks that you have laid out. Number 13 is one I really love. It's encouraging productive lives for heirs. So I've noticed a big gulf between families that feel like they have a lot of success and happiness versus those who don't feel that way. And it comes down to their children. If the children are encouraged to build meaningful lives and careers, regardless of their inherited wealth, it tends to tie all the generations together and bring about a lot more harmony. And it doesn't mean they have to be in the family business, or even if they have to pursue a high-powered, prestigious career. It just means that they do something meaningful. It could be helping people get access to clean water or simply doing volunteer work. As long as it's meaningful, it doesn't necessarily have to bring in a lot of dollars. So encourage purpose with your younger family members, help them pursue meaningful careers or even entrepreneurship if they have the right mindset for that. And then even set some expectations about responsibility and independence at an early age. Number 14 is treating wealth as stewardship. So families who preserve wealth often think about it differently than most other people. So instead of viewing the money as the personal property, They see it as something that they're just temporarily responsible for protecting. So having stewardship in that written family values statement is important, and even encouraging some philanthropy or just long-term community impact is important for helping people think about money as a tool for beyond their lifetime, as opposed to something that they're just using right now. Number 15, the final one, is to think in generations, not years. So a lot of investors will get caught up in measuring success annually. They might say, well, how did I perform in 2024 or 2025? But I see a lot of successful families thinking about preserving wealth in the context of decades and generations. They just simply make these decisions over these longer time horizons. So framing investment and planning decisions around multi-generational outcomes is important, and then evaluating whether the current strategies support that long-term family continuity. I think a lot of people would agree that building wealth is difficult, but I say keeping wealth across generations may be even harder. But ultimately, families who succeed across generations usually share this. They treat wealth preservation as a system of discipline, structure, and communication, not just investment performance.